What's good, Patreons and YouTube subscribers and people who are just passing by to check it out? Junior Bridgeman passed away a few days ago, and a lot of people didn't understand who he was until I pointed him out to some people. Even Shaquille O'Neal, they had the list of all the richest players to play in the game. And then they start seeing net worth, and they saw Junior Bridgman. They was like, "Who is that?" They seen all these players with all these massive contracts, and he's known for having all this wealth. And he had just did a deal a week prior that made him pretty much a billionaire. He's 1.4 billion, but the money is not. That's the part that most people are going to remember about him. But the people that met him, it's an entirely different world. One of the most humble people you're ever going to meet. My stepfather heard of him and know him because he's from a small town called East Chicago, Indiana. And that's where my stepfather went to school, everything at Washington High School. So same school. He was on the basketball team there. My father played basketball. My stepfather played on the team. And he's known for being involved in the biggest trade in the history of the game. At the time was monumental. It was like being involved with a Luka Doncic trade today. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar getting traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for Junior Bridgman. He ended up being drafted by the Lakers. So he was on the Lakers and got drafted. He went to the University of Louisville. So when he got drafted to the Lakers, he's like, oh, man, this is going to be amazing. He didn't get to play a game because even though he was an 8th overall pick in the 1975 draft, 3 weeks after the draft, the Lakers traded. I was trying to think who was all involved. Elmore Smith, David Myers, and Junior Bridgman, Brian Winters, all went to the Milwaukee Bucks for Walt Wesley and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Crazy trade, right? So they got Kareem. Everybody's like, okay, who's this kid we got, this rookie? He went to have a decent career with them, but he's only made like $2.5 million just, by the times. He was All-American in high school. He was the PAC player of the year in 74, 75. All of these things, right? But the business came to be. Now, they played some games overall and everything was going well, but when he was in Milwaukee, he would always go eat and go to fast food restaurants and things of that nature. And when he went to a Wendy's, and the guy, he was like, you know what? I'm going to end up buying one of these. I want to own one. And he started learning, taking classes and said, man, I want to buy this restaurant. He liked the Wendy's format and everything. So he saw that and said, you know what? I'm going to use my NBA money and I'm going to invest into the Wendy's franchise. By 2016 or 2018, he had about 100 Wendy's and Chili's restaurants. and he sold them. I think in 2016 he sold them all. Well, he realized that he found the better way to make more money. Um, mm-hmm. Sorry, this cold starting to come in because of this weather change. Now, Junior Bridgman changed the game because what he saw was the distribution and where the money was coming in the soda companies. And he saw an opportunity to own his bottling service that he could partner with. He ended up buying this whole warehouse where they packaged the sodas and everything. And the distribution is where the money was at. He saw and learned that, like, hey, okay, I need to get here because this is where this money is going. This is where the real bottleneck of the money is. So when he started seeing that, he realized that, okay, I need to go and meet with these guys in Canada. Canada is not that far from Milwaukee. That's about a couple of hours, 2 to 3 hour drive. So he went up there and had a meeting with these people and the bottling operation company, and then he ended up doing a deal with the soda company. Then Coca-Cola came and got involved in 2017. But he had to part with Wendy's and Chili's restaurants. Then he was able to do this deal with Coca-Cola. So he bought the Canada operations, the whole bottling system. So now he owns all of it. Then in 2020, he bought Jet Magazine and Ebony for $14 million after the magazine had declared for bankruptcy earlier in the year. He came and bought it just because he remembers being in those magazines back in the day and the legacy of it. So his investment firm that he co-founded, they had partnered with another company to construct and integrate a different type of aluminum mill in New Mexico. And that one was going to be key. So when the Alabama governor announced that those partners would be invested in bottling facilities in Alabama as well, down south, that bottling company and his ventures brings in hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So he was definitely expanding. Then September 24th of 2024, he purchased 10% of the Milwaukee Bucks. So that franchise is valued at $1.4 billion. And he purchased the interest of several minority ownerships across this world, different state values. But the way he researched the market is what made him very unique. That's what I want to pass on to you guys from Junior Bridgman. It's not about the money. Integrity, morals, respect. That's what Junior Bridgman had. That's what he carried with him every day. He had integrity. His money didn't define who he was. It was his acts. What he did in life mattered, no matter how small. Like you see me right now with a Band-Aid on my arm. I donated blood because there was a dire need for people who needed it. Not in the rich community, but the people who needed it in the neighborhoods that they're needed. They had a shortage. See, back then, there wasn't anybody that was giving advice financially in the business. There wasn't anybody who was willing to, they basically didn't have a lot of knowledge in the situation whatsoever. A lot of these guys were, for lack of other words or lack of better words, weren't really inclined. The NBA wasn't the NBA of today. This is the 70s. So the salaries wasn't what you thought. So him making almost $3 million in a career, that was standard, pretty much above at that point. Well, if you start to look at the pieces to the puzzle and watching it play out as clearly as as humanly possible, you're going to be looking at a situation where things jump off the screen. Like it's going to it's going to become more epic than what they have portrayed it out to be. Yeah, the way I see things, man, I try to keep things as clearly in perspective as possible. But I use Junior Bridgeman as the first guy who really had it figured out. Magic Johnson, Kareem didn't really have an idea what he wanted to do. People would come up to you if you're Magic Johnson, or let's say these opportunities. Michael Jordan's going to have these opportunities. What about the players that's don't have the popularity, as all the other teams, and first thing he ever bought was a 75 Ford Thunderbird. He had a rented apartment. He bought some furniture, sent some money home to his parents. And he's like, man, make sure you set some money aside to pay your taxes. So he hadn't even considered the idea that all of this would eventually keep him in debt. So he didn't have any fancy jewelry or watches. He didn't have the kind of money for that. So he's looking at the payroll and how it broke down. And this what got him thinking business. He started thinking, man, where I work now, how the payroll world works. So for this, whatever job you're working at now, learn your job. Meaning learning how your job pays you. Learn how your job is paying you. Whatever job you got now, learn how they are paying you. Some people just get their check cashed it, they cool. Figure out how they able to pay me. How are they paying this guy, this guy, this guy, this. Let me see how the spreadsheets, the payroll is, the breakdown, how this is working. Then you'll find out where the money is going and where and how much you are getting, and feel like, wait a minute, I'm underpaid here. Well, he hung out with Wayne Embry. Wayne Embry was he was a general manager, but he owned a McDonald's as well. So when he saw Wayne, and an epiphany came through. So many players went to work for somebody and their NBA career ended, but Embry, who was a former NBA player himself, owned his own business instead of working for somebody else. People were working for him. And that's what got him thinking about, I got to do that. So he was like, I want to save at least $1 million at the end of my career so I can be able to do these type of things and have the opportunities. And he couldn't get the opportunity with McDonald's, but you could see it was clear that the opportunities was there for him when it came down to Wendy's. Wendy's just happened to be a franchise in Milwaukee that he knew he could, like, okay, all right, I got an opportunity here. They're okay with ownership, black ownership, and it's a much more easier path. But guys was losing all their money. They would play and end up trying to get a job with the team doing something. And it was hard, man, for a lot of them. For a lot of those guys, it was hard. They had to really struggle to come up with ends meet, and it was just a rough time. So when you're thinking about business and you want to go into that format, use Junior Bridgeman as the the tool. Like, I want to be a model, or like, I want to. My goodness, this is the sloppiest game I've ever seen. It's pissing me off. But use him as a model, if you're going to look for somebody who's, doing it or calling it right down the line, a model of the game of business success. Junior Bridgeman was that, clearly. So everybody think they're Air Jordan now. What is going on here? So yeah, man, it was sad. His last words was, "I think I'm having a heart attack," and then that was it. So the man's incredible, man. I mean, a lot of his ideas go through my head now in today's time, and you can see how he's not afraid, or he uses things as collateral to move from one situation to another stanza. So he's in the money business, and that's the business you want to be in. And but if it wasn't for his integrity, who he was as a person, his relationships, the way he spoke to people, integrity, kept it at all costs. He was kind, he was respectful, it's a different time, different day and era, man. So rest in peace, Junior Bridgeman.